I would think my biggest failures ended up being my biggest accomplishments. So in my career, the things that hurt the most, the things that didn't work out the way I hoped, the things that at that time you thought were going to scar you for life, end up being the biggest lessons that helped you grow and become better. And you don't always talk about the failures. You don't always talk about the disappointments. You don't talk about the letdowns. But internally, I know that all of the things that I faced throughout my journey here, as those things have ended up building me to who I am versus all the wins.
Welcome to the CEOpeek show, where we uncover the essence of extraordinary leadership by interviewing CEOs with over 90% approval ratings on Glassdoor. Hello, Keith. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dave. How are you? Thank you. Appreciate it.
I told you I feel humiliated after I saw your guitars on the wall.
Yeah, since I work from home, and so this is a place I'm in all the time. I've always loved rock and roll. And I've been going to concerts since I was 11 years old and sleeping out for tickets in the cold back in the old days where you had to do things yourself, not do it online. But I have a bunch of guitars. Really, there's only like two I play because you get your favorites and then you kind of stick to those. And the two electrics and then one acoustic that I like. But it's always nice to be surrounded by a good environment when you're working. That's when you want to take a deep breath and look around and you see pictures and guitars and memorabilia that it just makes you comfortable from where you are.
Yeah, I love it. Do you play with a band?
No, I've never done that. I've thought about it, but it just takes so much time. I mean, it's different when you're playing on your own and doing your own thing and learning at your own pace. But then when you have to like mix with three other people and synchronize it all, I think that would be a lot of work. And I just, until I'm retired, I don't have that time of time.
Yeah, I can see that. I love rock too. And my time with the band actually was the time that I learned about my leadership more than any time before. Not more than any time, but it was amazing to see myself actually interaction with other players and the space that I take on stage, how is very much reflected my corporate experience as a CEO too. So, but that's kind of another conversation maybe, but music.
Well, you got to have the drums and bass all working in sync to make everything else. I mean, singing is probably the easiest, right? Because you can come in and out wherever you want, but you got to have your rhythm going before then the guitar can go on top and then the singing. So if you're in a band and you don't have those two things synchronized, then that would be a struggle.
Yeah. And I replicated to the boardroom, how much we are attuned with team members. There's something because we cannot talk, we play, but we still need to communicate with eyes. But sometimes there's more than just the eye. It's just like that attunement that we have to other team and we just need to feel them. That's kind of amazing. And now when I work with executive, I say that, are we feeling each other? And nope. Yeah. Did you have that sense that sometimes you're in meetings either with board members or with your leadership team and you have that sense that how much we are attuned to each other as individual, as a collective?
Well, I'm kind of blessed. We started this company in 2017, and I just knew a lot of people from the industry that I used to work with, and they came with me. So I've literally worked with a lot of my closest team members for over 20 years. So I think it's even that much further. It's more like you're a family. And so instead of having work relationships, it's more like, you know everyone so well, their families, their ups and downs, their ins and outs. I think it's a different perspective than if you're dealing with people you don't know. I think you have to behave differently and you have to look at things differently. When you do have a close knit team and a close knit family, you have to be in sync. And I think it's blessed when people can kind of predict your actions because they've been around you so long and they know the culture that you're looking for and they're signed up for the same thing, that they want to be in the same culture. So to me, it's always been a blessing to be able to work with people that I've known and trusted most of my professional life.
When you share that about family, I had that sense of loyalty because these people that you work for 20 years just followed you to when you started a company in 2017, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, very blessed that groups of people would trust me enough, especially when you're doing a startup, that the chances of startups working are very low. And each one of the persons that came had to trust that whatever we did together, we'd make it happen and we'd make it work. And we went from losing a lot of money when we started the company to now we're probably one of the most profitable from a EBITDA percentage dental service organizations there are in the nation. So it's never easy and it's a lot of ups and downs, and you feel like you do some good things and then two other things happen that take the wind out of your sail. But the large yardstick that you can look at, and it's a period of time that you're doing these things, that shows that you have great people around you. And I always look at myself as just, I'm a very small component of it all, right? I'm the captain of the ship and I just have to keep us away from the icebergs and keep us out of trouble. But really, my team they're the ones that make things happen and they're so important. And without them, we could never get this done.
Yeah. But when you talked earlier about the sense of family and that enable you to create such a great sync among the team members, and then for me, suddenly the notion of family, loyalty, a lot of leaders don't feel loyalty to their organizations because they know that the organization won't be loyal to them. So there's no sense of reciprocity in the loyalty relationship. So when companies will say, oh, people is our greatest asset, and then the first challenge on the balance sheet or the P&L, they let go. So I'm curious, what is that for you? You said that in the early year, you went through tough time and, you had losses. And how is that? How do you balance actually that, create that safety that will enable them to feel loyalty, that enable them to be in sync, that enable you to feel like you have a family here? What is that? What did you do then?
I think the big thing is just setting the right expectations. That I always feel like you have to be honest, regardless if it's good and bad. Like you have to share with people unfiltered, what's going on. And as a leader, I don't want to take the burden of having all of the things in my head, right? I'm going to share them with my team and have them help me get through the tough parts and be a part of the solution. And I think, in our world, the money people that you work with is very important. To me, that's been probably the rougher things I've seen in my career is picking the right financial partners and the ones that are good with you in the good times and the bad times. And some of them aren't like that. Some of them are great in the good times. And the minute, like you said, that you hit the rough patches, then they're very, like, I don't even know the right word, but they like cutting people and they like cutting everything to the bare bones because I think that's what they learned in business school at one time. So I've always learned that the financial side, whoever's, either an equity partner or a bank partner for debt, have the right people or the people that are going to see you through the long term. And business is going to be a series of ups and downs. So it's never going to be all gravy. It's never going to be all great. You're going to have your challenges and you have to be able to count on the people that are behind the curtain to be able to be there with you. And instead of when things get tough, them putting the screws to you, that they're helping you with solutions to get out of the mess that you potentially are in.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Nobody actually mentioned it before on the podcast. That dual relationship with whatever PE investors, VCs. And I think it's so important to create that also attunement with them and have it dual, that I want to make sure you said that I pick up, like everybody tries for them to pick me. And you said I need to pick up my financial partners. And it's funny.
And I'll give you an example, if you don't mind. Our whole business is that my company, we support management services for dentists. And what we do is we affiliate with a dentist and we buy a majority share of their practice. They stay on and we provide management services. In our world, it's very competitive, extremely competitive on people trying to do the same thing that we're trying to do. So we've gone through a period of time where people paid a lot of money for these practices. But then in turn, interest rates tripled and our market got tough. We got all of our costs after COVID went up with people and supplies and labs and things. That at the end of the day, I always give advice to anyone. It's either a CEO of a company or if it's a dentist that's selling their company, don't just do it for the money. It's like money will come and go, and it's the easiest thing to gain or lose. Always do it for the right relationships. In our world, in the dental service organization world, there's a lot of companies in big trouble. And I've been in the industry for 25 years. I've never seen so many companies that are now owned by their bank. So, and there were some of the ones that are out there paying the biggest dollars trying to win all these bids, but those doctors went for the high dollars rather than looking at what's the best company that will be here in the long term. I think that's just a microcosm of life. Who are you going to identify with? Who are you going to work with? Who are you going to partner with? And it's not always going to be the best bottom line, in my opinion. I always say that just because it's the highest offer, it's probably not the right relationship. Because when people have to make exorbitant offers, there's probably a reason behind it, right? I make an offer that's fair. I make an offer that's going to keep us both out of trouble in the long term if something bad happens. And I have a balance sheet and a financial statement that says that I know what I'm doing. And for the last 8 years in our industry, it's been very hard and we're succeeding. We're doing fantastic. We have great year over year growth. We're growing the bottom line, the top line. And to me, that's way more important than giving somebody an extra turn up front. And then next thing you know, their equity is not worth anything because the company has now not be able to pay their loans and the banks have taken them over or something like that. So it's understanding people and relationships. And to me, that's by far the most important to any success in business.
Reminded me that I coached a CEO of a renewable energy company, and they went for a round of 300 million, which was a big ticket for them. And they got a term sheet from an investor after struggling for 6 months to get a term sheet. And she told me that she felt it's not the right investor. And she rejected the term sheet that she didn't get from anybody else. She felt that the attunement missing there, a sense of that they would try to control me and so on. And I thought I never heard about anybody that will reject a term sheet that they're trying to get for so long because they see something beyond the money and they see the relationship part and the future of working together, being their board members and so on. And it's a tough decision though.
In my seat, it's what I have to live with. All right. Like those partners, if they're not the right people, I'm going to be miserable. And if I'm not happy, if I'm not enjoying my job, if I'm not expired every day and I'm miserable because of the partner that I chose, then I'm probably not going to choose to be there. That's just who wants to live in misery. So it's always one of those things that sometimes you have to do things because you have to, you have no other choices, and then you're stuck in a bad situation. But if you have choices, make sure you're making the right ones.
In one word that actually you mentioned quite a few times is use the word partners, partnerships. I don't know if you noticed that it came as a theme right now in the last 5 minutes. And I find it fascinating because especially when you work within a niche that is not that huge, right? It's not a consumer market. It's a kind of specific market that partnerships are so critical to. And when I think about partnership, I think about building relationship with a partner. It's not just like transactional, right? And how do you balance that? I sense that you balance both the transactional and the relational in those partnerships, but I'd love to hear more about it. I think people would be interested to see how do you build these strong partnerships?
Well, it's funny that when we first opened the company, we called it Encore Dental. And then, very probably 6 months into it, I'm like, that doesn't represent who we are. So we changed the name to Partnerships for Dentists. So it's partnerships, the letter for dentists. And I did that because that was easy for the world of having websites and things, having P4D as be our acronym. The way that I look at things is I try to make business as simple as possible. So I try to build a company with the foundation being very strong. So with contracts, with vendor relations, with employment agreements, with everything kind of in place that you can put in place so you don't have any gray lines. I think a lot of times partnerships go south or get cloudy when there are too many gray lines, and then you don't have any definitive Bible to turn to say this is the way that we're doing it. So when I try to build companies, I say, okay, let's do all we can today to build the complete foundation. Let's get the contracts with our doctors right. Let's get our vendor relations right. Let's get our job descriptions right. Let's get our employment contracts with our team right. Let's do all of that so we don't ever have to go back to that. We've all agreed in writing what all of those things mean. Then we can work on the important part of building the relationship. And that's really built on trust, that you want to treat people like you'd want to be treated. Even when things are tough, you do it with respect. You do it with thinking about how would they feel if you had to approach, or if they had to approach you or you had to approach them. I think that you just really have to work hard on going the extra mile for everyone, and knowing when you're in a leadership role, like you can't treat everyone the same. You actually have to work hard to really understand each personality of everyone on your team and treat them different according to what they need. There's a book I've used for at least 25, 6 years now called The Servant by James Hunter. Just an incredible short little read book. It's a story about a journey a guy makes through his life, all these challenges, and how really understanding leadership helps him pull it out. And one of the parts there is, giving people what they need instead of what they want. And I think that's one of those lessons that I learned a long time ago is if you really want to take care of somebody, take care of what they really need. Don't focus on all the things they actually want, but focus on the things they need that's going to help them be successful, help them be happy, help them achieve, help them grow, all of those things. So when I look at things, that's kind of my Bible is The Servant, because there's a lot of really great things in there to learn. But it's things that we all know. It's things that we were taught when we were kids. And when we just got old and got to be grown-ups, we forgot most of these little things that we were supposed to be doing when we were in first grade and second grade and third grade. But as we got older, we didn't deem them necessary and we got away from them.
There's so much to unpack in what you just shared. You mentioned actually that the relationship is built on trust. And I wonder if that's true, actually. I always think that many people actually, oh, let's build trust and then we'll have good relationship. And maybe it's the other way around. I see trust as an outcome and not as something that we do. Because I don't come home and say, my wife asks me, how was your day, Dave? Oh, I was trusting all day long. It's kind of an outcome of I find that when we have great relationship, we trust and not the other way around. So, but you mentioned it like as the other way that you need to build trust to build relationship. So what is true for you?
To me, it's doing what you say. It's your actions, right? It's not your talk. Being in this dental industry for as long as I have, I've built a ton of trusting relationships and they've paid off for me in spades. It's amazing. It's such a big industry, but it's a small industry. Like if you haven't screwed any people over, if you haven't done people wrong, if you haven't screwed over your vendors, if you haven't screwed over your doctors or your team members, if you treat everyone, consistently, if you treat people with respect, that will build that trust. When we started this company, we didn't have anything. I had to go negotiate with vendors saying, hey, I want to get great prices, but I only have one practice. How do I get great prices? Because all my competitors had a lot of practices that they were getting better costs, which was more attractive for doctors if you have a better cost structure. So I had a friend of mine that I'd known for years and I'd done business with them for years and years. And he said, hey, listen, I know you're going to build a company. I want to be a part of it. I know that you'll take care of me, that I'm going to give you pricing like you had 200 practices. And that was from day one. That made me extremely competitive right out of the gate. I mean, I think we ended up making the company profitable in 7 months, which is pretty incredible as a startup to be able to do that. But it's those type of things. People came to the table that have been fair and equitable and a good person and not done anything under the table or not lied to them. And they will come back and support you when you need them the most. And I think that's the definition of having a trusting relationship, that you've shown them in action versus saying it in words.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think you did actually that because that's kind of was a pivotal moment that enabled you to be so competitive in the market? Somebody to come with such an exception. And what is you think is like the subtext of what happened there? Why did he? Okay, you said he trusted me, but what was the secret sauce to get such a deal that was such an enabler to the business?
Well, I was with a previous dental company and he was with a supplier and he was trying to make his ends meet and he was trying to do things right. And I said, hey, listen, if this product is as good as you say it is, and you can get me the price that you're saying, I'll give you everything. I'll support you. I'll do whatever I got to do to get out throughout our entire company. And so we literally went from zero sales. And I know this is back in the 2000s, so I don't remember the dollar amount, but I went to every market. We were in 14 different states. And I went to every market with him and did a dinner with our doctors and introduced him and let him introduce his products and talk about. I gave him my 100% support behind it. Even though I'm not a dentist, I would let him talk about the efficacy of it, but I would give it my support, saying, hey, I'm behind this guy. I'd really like you to try this product. And it ended up being mutually beneficial because I think we caught the We cut the cost of the same product like in a third using his product versus what we were using. But at the same time, it made him go from his business skyrocketed. And to have we were a really large group at that time to have that ability. So I think it was just because I told him, hey, listen, if you take care of me, I'll take care of you. Just make sure, don't change my pricing on me. Make sure this is a great product like you tell me. I don't want to have anything come back to me saying this is a crap product, and we'll make it work. And so it was, at the end of the day, it was something that was mutually beneficial. I did what I said, he did what he said, and we both won. And so when the time came, he was in a different company in a different role, and I needed help. He said, I'm there. I'll do it. I'll make it happen.
So, what makes a great partnership is that mutuality. You talk about the business interests there, and they were definitely there. Is there something in the relational, personal connection that you had with that person that was also a component in that success, or it was just about the mutual business needs?
I would say when I first met him, it was just mutual business needs because I didn't know him from Adam. I didn't really know him at all. But over the years, he's become a very good friend of mine. And he actually likes 80s rock and roll. He's close to my age. So we have shared a lot of stories of concerts and all of the stories that happened back in the day. And we've gone to concerts together and things like that. So as it started very innocent as just a partnership business, I think it's become a long-term partnership of friends. And I don't even do any business with him today, but we're still friends.
That's so important. You talk about adjusting yourself to different personalities earlier, and I'm not a great believer in personality. Each one of us brings way more than one personality. So when you work with team members that you feel, okay, suddenly, not those that you know for 20 years, but the new team members or somebody even skip level from you that you see after you hire that there's some issues there in the way that they behave. That's their personality, or is there any attempt to try to shift that personality? Do you believe that actually people can change their personality?
I don't know if they can change their personality, but they can definitely change their behaviors. There's no doubt that they can change their behaviors. Even, and there's things that I do sometimes that probably could be offensive, and especially maybe in this day and age versus the old time. But if I heard a person, they would have trouble when they're talking and they didn't know it. If they said all the time, or if they said things like kind of very wishy washy things, and I would see it and say, I'd say, hey, listen, I know this is awkward, but I want to tell you what I'm seeing that's not making you come across as a strong leader that I know you are. And I would share those things. And then I would even, every time they would do it, I'd stop them. I said, do you know what you just did? Did you know that you just said three times in a row? And as it probably sounds like, boy, you're a nitpicking or being annoying. I mean, it truly was the love that I have for them. Like, I know if I'm picking up on it and it's making them look not as good as they potentially could be, or weaker or wishy washy, then other people are noticing that. So it all comes down to having the honest conversation with people. There's a big part in the servant about love, and it has nothing to do with loving people like we know loving, but it's the agape, the verb, the Latin about action. It's the having enough love to give people action, that you care about them enough to give them what they need and not what they want. So I always feel like, hey, if I really care about these people around me, sometimes I will do things and tell them things that they don't want to hear. But I hope that even though they might get mad at me at the period of time, hopefully they'll step back over a long period of time and knowing who I am, that they know I'm just trying to help them and just trying to help them be better and help them raise their game to the next level.
That was such a great example to what you mentioned earlier about telling what they need, not what they want. I wanted to ask you about it, but you explained it so well right now about people don't want to hear like feedback that they need to change, but you tell them that because they need that. But also the other thing that you mentioned, that it comes from love, and I'm good with love in the workplace. It's not like the romantic love, right? Also, it's that intentional care that I bring. And then when I give that feedback, they know that I'm intentionally here because I care about them, not because I'm critical or judgmental or hate them, right? So that's a way to give feedback, actually. people sometimes so resentful to feedback just because the way that it's given, it's like it's harsh, right? And
Well, and in this day and age where we have such a polarization of words and actions and things that a lot of times people get misrepresented. And you have to be, I know I am much more careful what I say and what I do, what I would have done 15 or 20 years ago. I think I was much more blunt and would just come out and say things just to try to get people to change. But now I have to be much softer and really understand what I'm saying. And I don't want it to be misconstrued or misunderstood, that I'm just trying to get across things to help people. And I think that oftentimes in the world that when you're giving people feedback, it just feels like, in the old days, people accepted it more, maybe because it was a more a boss employee relationship. But now the way the world is, I feel like people look at it as a very big negative, which I don't think if it's good feedback that's done it in the right way, that should be a huge positive for people. But I do find that people don't want the feedback. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to take it. They don't want to own it. And I don't know if it's a younger generation thing. I'm not sure. I know my kids at times or don't want to, hear the things that I have to say or understand why I'm saying them. But truthfully, I don't do anything for my own purposes. I'm trying to do things for other people and trying to help them be better. But I'm not always right either. So I could be wrong as well. But I just think that as a leader, if you've been doing this a long period of time, you've had to change the way that you are and you've had to adapt to the changes in society and people, or people won't resonate with you. If you've stuck on the same way that you were in the 90s, that you're probably not going to be successful in today's world.
well, I'm not sure it really changed. So I see, I have three kids. My two boys are millennial. All of them are 4 years between the three of them. But the two of millennials and my daughter, the youngest one, cross into the Gen Z. And still we have generational. So we have like my wife and me, like, yeah, we probably X. We don't know, maybe baby boomers, but probably X. So we have XYZ and different worldviews that shows up within just the nucleus family. That's really fascinating. Yeah, just to talk about the
It's, as you know, with kids, just because they're your kids doesn't mean they're going to be the same. Like, I have two kids from a financial standpoint, like they're on opposite ends of the world on how they look at finances. One says, I don't need to save, I can spend and I can do, and I'll worry about saving it some other day. And the other one is very much, every time you get an extra $10, let's put it into Bitcoin. And you can't figure out I raised them exactly the same under my roof. And I didn't have a whole lot of money when I grew up. So I've grown up very conservative in how I do things. And I would figure that my kids would just emulate that, but they don't. Like, everyone goes down their own path. And I have to definitely, when I being their dad, I have to look and see at the people they are today. And they're 28 and 25. So they're adults, and I just have to help them in a different way, even though they're completely different in some circumstances.
yeah. You just almost described my three kids right now from financial point of view and their worldview. I want to circle back to mention about we cannot change personality, we change behaviors. So if we think about it, if you change the behavior, because people will see, oh, you have a different personality. Because at the end of the day, personality, in my view, is actually a behavior that became a pattern, that became a habit, eventually became a personality. But from neuroscience point of view, those are neurons that fire together, wire together. They become automatic patterns that we call personality.
Yeah, I think for me, behaviors are actions, right? And personalities are an emotion. And I've never read a psychological book, but that's just the way that I see it. Like a personality, like my personality at work is different than my personality at home. I'm not the same person. When I'm at
This
work,
is what you think.
yeah. Well, I feel like I'm on stage all the time at work, right? Like that you have to have a certain persona. And then when I get done working, I feel like I can unplug. And the first thing I want to do is put a baseball cap on a t-shirt and just veg and watch a sporting event or watch football or something.
Yeah.
But at work, I'm very attentive. I'm very on my game. I get my work done. I do my emails. I do it all. But when I get my time off, I try to just completely not be the person who's on stage. I try to be just take a deep breath and relax. And I don't feel like going out to dinner all the time. And it's like you feel like I just want to relax. I just want to take my time off and enjoy that. So I think all of us are different than that. There are some people that I think are the same exact person 24 hours a day. They don't change. And I'm just not that way. But to each his own, and all I care about at work is people's behaviors, right? I just care about, are they taking care of the people around them? Are they serving people? Are they being a good servant leader? Are they taking action? Are they doing things to make our business better? Are they having the good conversations with people to help make them better? It's all action items. It's all behavior things that I want their actions to have an impact on people's lives. And I think if we all looked at life and said, how can I help others before we look at ourselves? I think the world could be a much different place. And I know it's not that way, but my greatest joy in life is helping others be better. And that's probably what's kept me going all these years at work is like to see the wins around me and see the people that have grown up and just become incredible leaders and incredible executives. It's like a proud papa that you've seen your children grow and become such great people. And that's the way I feel about my team. They're just the best in the business, hands down. I got just so lucky to get these people around me, but they've all come from a long place of learning and growing and experimenting and doing things differently and making huge mistakes and doing the wrong things. But they always get better. They want to get better. And I think that's such a critical part of having great team members.
We all try, we lead through the behaviors. Both we lead through the behavior and we look at other leaders' behaviors, who we lead, right? But doing that work now from the other side of the CEO into coaching CEOs and their teams, I know that the emotions are the drive for the behaviors and the actions. But nobody talks about it. And the emotion don't exist. You said they belong to the personality, but we think that we are making decisions based on cognitive, discerning, powerful strategy. But at the end of the day, there are emotions, specifically in a conversation that happen within team. So one of the challenges is to bring emotions back to boardrooms, to team members, because once they see the emotions attuned to their own emotions and attuned to other people's emotions, then they can actually become way more effective while they say, oh, that's emotional. I don't deal with that. That's his personality, their personality, none of my business. But it is because it's the drive for that. Does it make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, to me, a CEO is the one that needs to set the example and make sure that they have all the people around them that want to be better. Like the worst position you can be is have half your team as go-getters and wanting to change and develop and get better, and the other half are just happy being where they are and don't really want to put a different effort in. And as your company grows, that creates silos. That you don't have that effort of let's everyone win. It's not about the individual win, but it's about the team winning. I've been in situations in companies that silos got so deep that it wrecked the company. And everyone forgot why you're there. Everyone forgot the main purpose of the company. And it got all split up between IT and finance and accounting and legal and operations and training and marketing and HR. Everyone just thought those were the most important part of the company when all of those were just support mechanisms to the main line of where the actual money was made. So I think as a CEO, you just have to be very cognizant of what can happen if you leave things unchecked.
Silos created in the senior executive team, in the ELT or SLT, whatever you call it. People think that silos created in the organization. No, there's no organizational silos if there are no silos in the leadership team. And I recently coached a VP, and he told me that he is in ops, that they don't work well with IT. And they need to work very well. They produce products, and because the CIO and the COO don't get along. And a CEO that doesn't resolve that challenge actually create a huge problem for the whole organization. But sometimes it's so subtle, they can see that the CEO itself create a silent organization. I'll give an example. I coached a team last year, and the CEO, when they talk about revenue, he turned to the CRO. When he talk about people, to the chief people officer. He didn't direct the question about performance of the organization to the whole team. but to the person that's responsible for the specific function. And that's a mistake because you create silos right now. So the CEO sees, oh, that's the CRO problem. It's not mine, right? And here you have silo just created in a meeting without even people thinking that they're creating silos.
Oh, you're spot on. And I've seen it. I've lived it. It's very destructive. It's extremely destructive to a company. I mean, companies are hard enough to make successful, right? Like, it's not a given that any company is going to be successful. And it's make or break having the right people in the right seats in order to get it to be able to be successful. So it's those little things that you just would never know that can really just ruin everything if you don't have everyone heading in the right direction.
Yeah. My son is a co-founder in a startup and they have two co-founders that already have problems like many big names that they have problems before. We heard it in big companies, what happened between co-founders until one is ousted that the company didn't move on. And I told him, resolve that issue, get a coach, not me. I cannot coach my son and his co-founder, but get somebody to help you to because if you want to scale fast, there's no way that you will scale. Eventually, you're creating a silo from day one in the organization. The relationship that they have between them two will be the relationship between engineering and business facing people there. They're also like your company in a niche of healthcare system niche too. So it's very interesting to see the journey, but silos is a killer.
Absolutely. And I like the fact that companies are starting to, like our company, we don't have a corporate office. We all work from home. So there's plus and minuses of that. When we did work in corporate office, in that environment, that you have this corner was accounting. Usually back in the hole was IT, all the closed doors, they have all the computers with them and all that. And then over here was finance. And then over here was legal. And it was like segregation set up in that way. And I think what I've seen is some companies are getting rid of offices and they're having everyone just in one floor plan and everyone's integrated in it. It's not siloed from a geographic standpoint. So I think that's whoever started that trend, it was pretty much genius of trying to get everyone to be part of the same team versus putting these groups in one particular area or in one particular group in a corporate office.
When we connected before I clicked recording, I share with you my client that actually reached 100 million, 300 employees, a distributed workforce around the globe. He has people in Chile, China, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, you name it. And there's an art to that because people say, oh, you need to be in the office. A lot of people after COVID, we need to come back to the office and it's killing us this, but there is, if you really, but that CEO also invests time and effort in leadership and bring people together through programs that bring them and create like deep connection between people, stronger than connecting people that actually in the same office. I saw relationship that I've never seen in any company that works face to face. So that experience. So it's really interesting actually. So
I also think, like for me personally, I would spend 3 hours a day in a car going to work and going back to work. And it could get worse than that depending on traffic. But you think about that productive time that you're not stuck in a car, that if you can have the right mentality and the right trust amongst your team, and we have some things that help us to make sure everyone's working their hours, and we have certain technology that we use to help that make that happen. But from a personal standpoint, I know for me personally, it's 100 times better than going into the office. And I get so much more done than I did going into the office. And I got to imagine that every mom that works for us, they have the ability to be able to take their kids to their sporting events or go to the school and do those things. If the kid's sick, they can handle that. And all of those things become very hard from a personal standpoint when you have people in the office. So I don't think it's for everyone, but I think it's been a positive thing for us in order to create good culture, that we respect everyone and hopefully everyone respects the system, that we're not having everyone having to go in the office and people aren't going to cheat and not work. And when the cat's away, the mouse will play type of thing. So it's a two-way street. Like hopefully they trust us and we trust them and together we're going to be better.
Keith, before we bring it to a close, what do you tell people that actually know you for 20 years and listen to this podcast? Tell them something that they never heard about you.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I could do that.
One thing that they never heard. Otherwise, why they should listen to that? So one thing that they never heard about you.
I would think my biggest failures ended up being my biggest accomplishments. So in my career, the things that hurt the most, the things that didn't work out the way I hoped, the things that at that time you thought were going to scar you for life, end up being the biggest lessons that helped you grow and become better. And you don't always talk about the failures. You don't always talk about the disappointments. You don't talk about the letdowns. But internally, I know that all of the things that I faced throughout my journey here, as those things have ended up building me to who I am versus all the wins. The wins were easy, right? The wins are happy. We want to do that every day. But it's the most challenging times that have made me who I am. And I don't go around telling people all the failures I had or challenges, but they definitely help mold me because it helps me be understanding and helps me be more creative on helping people avoid the things that I had to go through.
Yeah, and maybe we'll close where we started. We started with music, coincidentally, because you show me your guitar. So, and so, what is your favorite band?
Led Zeppelin.
Love it.
So I'm a child of the 80s and the 70s. So I was growing up, it was always like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. And then in the 80s, I started to get into all the 80s bands like Motley Crue and Rat and Poison. And I'd go see all the concerts. And people, friends of mine, always say that I've never grown out of those eras, that I'm not very accepting to new music. So I definitely have people that know me know that I love the 70s and 80s, and I haven't adapted too well to all the decades after that.
Yeah, since I was not growing in the United States, as you can imagine, I didn't have that chance to go to see those concerts, and I'm here only for the last almost 10 years. So I don't miss any. I miss you too that came to Las Vegas, but Def Leppard, they had the US tour, and I miss the Scorpion because of Business Trip, which is, I think, my favorite band.
I saw the Scorpions with Buck Cherry in Vegas back in
Oh,
or August. I think it was August.
yeah, but I think if I'll find out that actually you didn't miss any concert of any great rock band, so
I never saw Led Zeppelin because I was only 11 when they disbanded. But I saw Robert Plant and Jimmy Page play. I've seen Pink Floyd play. I don't think there's any that I haven't seen that I really have liked. So I've always tried to do that. And my kids grew up on going to concerts. So I always tried to take them with me and introduce them to the culture and see what it's all about. And now they're huge, huge concert goers and likes classic rock like me and country. And the other one likes rap and classic rock like me. So I got the classic rock into them, but they've gone a little bit in other directions.
yeah. I just bought last week for my next one is Foo Fighters in Bottlerock in Napa in May. So,
Well, you know what? Def Leppard is in Las Vegas right now for the whole month. They're playing at the Caesar's Palace for the whole month of February.
oh, I'm taking my wife.
You have to.
It was such a wonderful conversation, Keith. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom. I have that sense of the love that you give to your people. I feel it from you. So, yeah, it was a wonderful talk. Thank you for being with us, and hopefully our paths will cross in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me know if you go to see them, what you think. And I appreciate you having me on. And I always enjoy sharing anything about leadership because it's really the most important thing we do in leadership roles is help develop people and help people become great.